Beauty is not limited to our outside appearance. It's inside us. It's our professional lives and our personal passions. It's in our health and wellness, our families, friends, and loved ones. Ask Us Beauty Magazine is content designed to educate, empower, and inspire individuals on all things beauty and wellness. We do this by bringing together people of all backgrounds to share their stories, leaving you with inspiration for living your best life. Whether it's through products, services, procedures, and personal brands, we challenge the status quo. Our mission is to change the narrative, allowing each and every one of us to define beauty on our own terms. Visit us today at askusbeautymagazine.com. Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Our VIP featured guest is the president and CEO of Hera Biotech, a women's health company focused on commercializing a non-surgical diagnostic for early detection of endometriosis. She previously spent 7 years as a director of clinical operations, as she also worked for a San Antonio-based science venture capital fund and served as a board representative as needed. She earned her MBA with specialization in data analytics from Louisiana State University, attended the University of Texas, San Antonio, where she graduated Magna Cum Laude with a degree in entrepreneurship and was the winner of this prestigious award, C.I.T.E, Center for Innovation, Technology, and Entrepreneurship's annual student competition with a women's health technology that she invented, and she can tell us more. Silhouettes, let's welcome Somer Baburek to the show. Hello, Somer. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of the program.
Thank you for joining us. It is a complete pleasure to connect with you and be with you today as you share your Silhouette of Success story with us. So welcome once again.
Thank you.
All right. To help illustrate the early shaping of your Silhouette of Success, let's begin by having you share a little bit more about your background with the audience.
Sure, absolutely. So I really fell in love with women's health and entrepreneurship in my undergraduate degree, which was focused in entrepreneurship. And it all really started with an arduous labor and delivery experience with my first daughter. And we were in labor for 26 hours. And, we kind of joke that if it could go wrong, it did go wrong. And we ended up in an emergency C-section. And it was through that experience that I decided, okay, there's so many gaps in what I experienced. How can we address that? And, being in entrepreneurship, that was one of the things that our curriculum focused on is spotting problems and then turning them into opportunities. And so that led me to invent this medical device, which was really based around looking at the fetal heartbeat during labor and delivery and tying that definitively to uterine contractions, which is typically what they're trying to do to monitor those spikes and drops in the fetal heartbeat. But they're only relevant as they're tied to a uterine contraction. And the current method of technology doesn't tie them definitively to the uterine contraction. So that's how it all kind of got started for me. And I fell in love with women's health, recognized there was so much opportunity there, went to work in life science venture capital, And in my 7 years there, never saw one woman's health deal come across my desk, which was just shocking to me, especially since I was partly responsible for deal flow. So it's not like we weren't looking for them. And so that's when I really decided. I was working in two of the fund companies. Those companies were exited, and I just felt like, okay, it's time. I've got to make the switch over to the other side of the table and start trying to address some of these issues.
So it's interesting when we hear others say, okay, find your why. What's your why? Or when you go to attempt to launch a company or a service and they say, all right, so what problem, will your service or, solve for somebody? And you
Right.
are just, oh my gosh. Okay. So the fact that you were able to tie all that together and recognize the gaps and all of those other things, and that you were there for 7 years and you never saw a deal come through. I mean, all of those things are just like phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just keenly to be aware of those things and then act on them.
It was really eye opening. And I now, have two daughters, and, it just kept me up for a while thinking about, what's the next step after those companies had exited. I thought, over the course of my, venture capital career, have sat there and looked at all of the gaps that I can identify relatively easily in women's health. And I'm not even entrenched in it. So I can't imagine, if I got entrenched in it, how many gaps I'd be able to identify. And, on the one hand, being an entrepreneur and being someone who recognizes venture capital opportunities, it was like, okay, if there's ample gaps, there's ample opportunity. But then the other side of that coin was being a mother to daughters. I thought, is that really the experience that I want my children to have with the healthcare system? I don't think so. So, how is it that I am bettering their life experience if I'm not actively trying to address some of the things that I've experienced as gaps?
Fantastic, because the vision to see that, and it's, on the daily. Oh, wow. You're giving me goosebumps. Just, just seeing, just hearing you share, looking through that lens ahead for your daughters.
Yes, it's exciting, but it's also, I think, honestly, one of the things that keeps me going, because and you hear it a lot. It's so hard to start a business. It's so hard to do a startup. And, I feel like sometimes we're beating a dead horse by repeating these same statistics over and over. But, only 1.9% of venture capital funding goes to female founders. Well, when you take that number and then you look at your subsectors of female founders and women's health, it gets minuscule. So it's really, really tough. And so there are days when you kind of, sit there with your head in your hands and go, what am I doing with my life? Like, this is so hard. But then when you have those little people looking at you, and I've talked about this on in other places, but one morning I woke up and my youngest was in her bathroom getting ready, and I hear her talking, and I was like, what is she doing? And I walked kind of around the corner and was listening. She was giving my pitch in the mirror, and I just thought, like, well, I can't stop now.
No, you cannot. Oh my. Oh, wow. Wow. What a proud moment, too. Oh my
It
gosh.
was.
And they hear, whether we really think they're paying attention or not, they are.
They are.
They are, and they're getting it, organically, but they're getting it, through osmosis, and they're getting it just by your example, and they see. So, oh my gosh. So speaking of, walking around and looking and seeing her doing that in the mirror, talking about your day, a day in the life of right now, in the entrepreneurship level that you're at, the alarm clock goes off, your work or business day begins. What does a day in the life look like for you in this adventure? Are you structured with routine? Because again, so many women tune in and they're looking for, okay, I see what she's doing. How is she doing it?
Yeah.
Or are you more spontaneous? A little bit of both. Talk to us about what works for you.
Sure. So I'm a big coffee drinker. I'm also also very much a closet introvert. No one believes me when I say that, but I promise I am an introvert. Like when I go to these conferences and things, y'all don't see me go back to my hotel room like in the middle of the day and just like sit down on the end of the bed and try to take deep breaths. It's
Yeah.
just, anxiety inducing. So I like to wake up pretty much before anyone else in my house. We have 4 dogs, so you can't escape that component. But usually they'll just come out of the bedroom with me and lay down on their beds and say, "Oh, mom's doing her thing again." But I like to start my day quietly. So I get a cup of coffee, I sit down at the, counter in the kitchen and just kind of quietly decompress, let my mind kind of focus, look at the calendar for the day, think about what we've got to get done. And then my littles get up at 6, so I'm getting them up, getting them ready for school. My husband and I try to drop them off at school together every morning. And then we come back and it's like, high five, see you out there. And we both go about our days. I do a lot of calls during the day, emails. I do have some of the tools in my life that make it much easier for me is I use Calendly to set up my appointments, which is super helpful to make sure everything is streamlined. And that way I can block times so that I can get my workouts in because I just think that's really, really important. And that I can block time off to make sure that in the evenings I'm present as part of the home team, so to speak. And so the other thing that I do, which my sister would tell you is insane, I plan our meals a month at a time. So I'm the one that primarily cooks in our household. And so I do a monthly dinner menu. And so that helps a lot in that we're able to know exactly what's for dinner. I know I have the ingredients. I go shopping once a week and I don't have to think about it. And I also don't have to answer that question 15,000 times. It's right there on the refrigerator. Everybody can read, everybody figure it out.
Isn't it crazy? It happens every day. Well, for the rest of us. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
But isn't that crazy? What is that? What, you
It's
want to
so,
eat? I mean,
yeah. Why would you think I'm responsible for feeding you?
and you filled that gap too. You saw the situation and you solved it ahead of time. So
Yeah, I just thought, I can't go to the grocery store every day. It's just not something I can do. I'm not willing to do it.
oh, that's
So,
awesome. Oh my goodness. So your days are full, clearly, but you've built in the ability with some structure to give yourself an opportunity to have those different compartments, if you will, running as they need to be.
exactly. Exactly. And I do have little neuroses. Like I can't have a bunch of emails in my inbox. It bothers me. I can't do it. My inbox is clean. I answer emails almost immediately when they come in. And then I don't do any social media personally other than LinkedIn, just because I found it to be something that just caused anxiety and stressed me out. And so I just don't. If
Yeah.
you're my family and you want to talk to me or you want a picture of my kiddos, you're going to have to call or text.
It isn't that I'm seeing more and more of that, more and more of that at every age dynamic, I guess is a good way to say it. Even the youngers, daughter's 26 and social media is not what it once was. I think
Right.
it's caused so much. And that's another conversation.
For sure.
Yes, but that's so wise of you to do that. It clearly is, I think, a life choice that brings better health to your sanity.
Yeah.
So, talking through some of that as well, could you pinpoint to any positive adjustments? Clearly, social media would be a significant one that you've made in your life or environment that do help support the growth of your goals and dreams with what you're doing.
Yeah, I do think the calendar blocking, giving myself that dedicated time I like to run. I also like to lift weights. So having that mental block, knowing that time is dedicated for that and that alone, and it doesn't really matter what happens during that time, people know I'm unavailable. That has helped a lot because for me, I can get really deep in anxiety if I feel like I don't have a break and I'm back to back to back to back and I don't know when that's going to end. It's exhausting mentally and emotionally for me. And so knowing that I have blocked those little segments, even just to fix myself, a cup of tea, or I also like to drink hot water with lemon because I'm weird. So if I just have the time to go through that very mindful process of like boiling water and having tea and, putting, honey in it and sitting down and drinking that tea, 15, 20-minute little block throughout the day, it's so helpful to me to be able to know when that time is coming up. And then I think really being present in the evening, I'd love to say that like, oh, I put my phone on the counter and turn it off at, 7 p.m. I don't. That's a lie. But from, probably from about 5 to 7:30, you're going to be hard pressed to get a hold of me. But other than that, I'll check emails or, LinkedIn messages afterwards or before that, but not during that time. And that's helpful too, because then my family feels like they're getting dedicated attention, not half attention. And when I feel like I'm ignoring them or not prioritizing their needs, that also can make me feel a little extra stressed. So those are kind of some of the positive changes that I've seen have kind of naturally come over the last couple of years. But I find them really helpful when I reflect on them.
How do you get unstuck if you seemingly have a barrier between you and either a goal or a task? What best practices work for you?
So that's my favorite time to take a run because I find that it just quiets everything down for me mentally. I can listen to music. I am breathing too hard to, have a panic attack over the block, and it just kind of resets for me. The other thing that I will do is I will either call one of my friends who is also a female founder, so understands the scope in which I'm working, which is quite helpful, other than just a friend who, works for a big corporation that has no concept of the parameters that we're dealing with, and whiteboard it. Just say, this is what I'm thinking. This is, 5 ideas I had. I have no idea what to do. This is the block, and oftentimes I see that just switch of perception absolutely opens up a whole new avenue that I just didn't see because I was too far down in the weeds. I'm really lucky to have a husband who is a CFO for some startups. He did some CFO work for the fund I used to work for. So if it's a financial block, he's the guy. That I'm saying, you're going to need to get off the phone or not be working for about 30 minutes because I need to figure this out. And to me, it's usually just verbalizing it. This is the problem. Here's the things that I thought might work. I don't know if they will. And I can't think of any other thing that might work. And then, usually by talking to him, one of my fellow female founders, there's new ideas that come to it. And oftentimes it's a combination of a couple of things that actually ends up working.
I value everything that you just shared. And what really also struck out to me is whiteboard it, get it out of your
Mhm.
head, get it on there, visualize it, I guess, or see it visually. Amazing. So let's talk about your company, Hera Biotech, the inspiration that led you to create and launch a company. And then tell us some of your most proud, maybe accolades or notable milestones. Talk to us.
Sure. Yeah. So Hera is it's really exciting. So when I decided that I was going to take this founder journey, the fund that I worked for, 2 of the fund companies that I worked in that were exited were drug development companies. And so my natural tendency was to go look at therapeutics being developed in women's health because that's where my most recent experience was. When I looked at those, what I saw was that very little therapeutics were being developed that actually change the disease or treat the disease. Most of what was being developed was controlling symptoms, which kind of shot up a flare in my mind of why would we only be trying to silence these symptoms? Why wouldn't we be trying to fix the disease? And that led me down the rabbit hole of, oh, we don't really understand how these diseases progress. Oh, we don't really understand how to even robustly diagnose these diseases. No wonder we can't treat them. And so that really pointed me in the direction of let's put the horse in front of the cart, per se. Let's get a diagnostic that robustly diagnoses a disease that we struggle with today. Because from there, we can learn how to track progression. From tracking progression, we can learn how do we then intervene and mitigate that progression, meaning treat the disease. So I found this particular technology at the University of Texas Health Science Center here in San Antonio. And one of the things that really drew me to this was the amount of scientific bench work. So, not necessarily in patients, but on the cellular level, why all the work that had gone into why this gene set, why this tissue, why this indication. And it just really sets you up for success as you try to broaden the scope of what you're looking at. And so endometriosis is very personal to me and my family. I've never been diagnosed, but formally, but I have had, horrible periods my whole life. I have a family member who underwent a hysterectomy early based on advice from a doctor for endometriosis. And it was not what she wanted. She probably was not ready to relinquish the idea of children, more children, but that was what it was. I have another family member who's tried, I think we're on maybe over 7 or 8 birth controls now, no avail, requires injections for pain on her cycle. So, these are very personal stories to me. And so I really, really appreciated the work that had been done in the space, the science that had been, given so much attention to get here. And then I really wanted, as I thought about my passion in women's health and I thought about the journey to get to here, I wanted an intentional company. I wanted everything that we do to be intentional. And that even comes down to the name. So I knew I wanted it to be a women's health company. I knew this was probably the technology that we were going to license to found the company on. So I started looking at names that I thought might be appropriate. And Hera is the Greek goddess of family and fertility. She protects women in childbirth. She was Zeus's only legitimate wife, and her wrath is legendary. And I thought, well, we might need that. So
ding,
let's
ding,
go.
ding.
Yeah, let's go with Hera. And then our logo is the peacock. And Hera is fabled to have created the peacock after the loss of her thousand-eyed giant Argus, who was her protector. And she put the eyes of Argus on the peacock feather so that she would always feel watched and protected. And so that's our logo. I want patients who are using our products to know that's our mission. We're here to watch, we're here to protect, we're here to hold ourselves to the highest scientific standards and give you meaningful diagnostics and eventually maybe meaningful therapeutics. But nothing that we're doing are we doing just because we can say we did it. And so that's really been the path. And I've appreciated so much bringing co founders on who share that vision. I mean, I can't tell you how many times a day we say patient, 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 because it's not really about the company. It's really about the patient. It's really about the endo warrior that we're trying to help here. And how do we make every step of this process a lower burden and an easier process and better care? So that's really, I'm so proud to be at the forefront of a company who has that culture and we have that mission And, I think some of our proudest moments are often the result of a good heated debate over what's next or how are we going to fix this problem. Some of our accolades that we're really excited. We were so excited to participate in the Kinder Scott Female Entrepreneurship Pitch Competition. We were the winner of her first one. So thrilled to have a powerhouse like that put something together like that and be able to say we were the first. So that was exciting. We've participated in a lot of programs, the Ad Astra Boot Camp. We were so thrilled to be a part of that. And really just our early believers. Coyote Ventures was an early believer in us. You don't usually see a venture capital fund in a seed round. And having two incredible female scientists who started a venture capital fund bet on an early stage company, that's just huge. That's a huge accolade. So quite proud of that.
Well, goodness, I'm going back and, I'm taking all my notes here. But something you said was so impactful. Well, everything you said was so impressive. But you said endo warrior. Where have you been all of our lives? Wow.
I've been curled up in the fetal position during my
Yes.
menstrual cycle with you.
Yes, we have. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yes.
Just so
So,
much. Wow.
yeah, I can't think of another indication I'd rather work in. I mean, the patients, the women, the warriors, however you want to refer to them, who are affected by endo, it's a whole new level of grit. I think about what these people are able to do in excruciating pain. And we do it month every month and multiple times a month. I mean, I also really love the idea that people are like, oh, yeah, bad periods. I get it. I'm like, you don't. It's cute. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. But it's like
Yeah.
a whole month of events. So it's all leading up to the
Yes.
period, but there's like, oh, this is what happens 2 weeks before to me, and this is what happens the week before, and this is what happens on my cycle, and this is what happens the week after. And so, that was my experience. And one of the things, I had such a great conversation with another founder in this space who's working really hard to help endo warriors navigate the healthcare system, which can be just an excruciating process. But her and I were talking about it, and I was like, I'm so ready for people to stop saying, here's the answer. Here's the answer. No, there is no the answer. There's your answer. What works for you? All I want you to have is the power to get a diagnosis when you want it, and then use that to make your decision about what is the appropriate care path for you. We're all dealing with different limitations. We're all dealing with different factors that affect what the right choice is for us. We can talk about clinically or scientifically what's been shown to be the best practices, but that may be not accessible to everybody. So I think there's so much power in being able to say, I have a diagnosis. It's this. That's why I'm dealing with XYZ. And I want to be in charge of the choice that I get to make about how I'm going to address those issues.
No reprieve sometimes. Oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
just godsend what you all are doing.
Thank
Thinking
you.
through, yeah, thank you. Thinking through your experience and your journey up to now. Was there ever a specific point in time, could have been an event or key situation in your professional life that forced you to take a monumental shift within your business or career? Positive or painful? How did going through that help you grow?
Yes. So when I was working for the venture capital fund, I was working in two of those fund companies. Those companies were acquired, which most people are like, oh, you exited. Yay. Yes, absolutely. The company exited and I was a part of that. And that was super exciting. The structure of that exit was unique. I wasn't in senior management. And the company that acquired us essentially shut down US operations very shortly after acquiring us. And everything that you thought was going to be a part of that exit was gone. So my shares became worthless, maybe less than worthless. And not only that, I was out of a job working in those two companies. The fund was fully invested at that time. So there was nothing really for me to be doing there. And I know this may shock the audience, but San Antonio, Texas is not a hotbed of life science activity, um, like one might think, despite being, military medicine city USA and having all of these great resources. It doesn't have a boon of life science job opportunities. And I was really at a loss. I didn't know what to do. I had some options, but they were on the coasts. And how was I going to move my family from a home with a yard and all of this in Texas to probably less than 1,000 square feet somewhere on the coast? It just wasn't feasible. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I remember sitting there on the front porch one night, just kind of shaking my head like, I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do. And, my husband came out and he said, well, if only you knew how to assess technology in the life science space. And if only you had a background in entrepreneurship where you knew how to write business plans and pitch companies and, you know, make financial models and raise money, man, if you had that, then you could probably, I don't know, start a company or something. And I just kind of looked at him and I was like, do you have something to say? And he's like, no, I mean, if only you had that stuff. I was like, right, 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 right. I do, don't I? Okay, well, if that's what we're going to do, then that's what we're going to do. So we sold our house, which was in a nice neighborhood. We moved to what I love, how people say, the up and coming neighborhood. And we made that choice. And, here we are. You know, gosh, that's been quite a while ago. It took me about a year before I didn't know what to do to that point. But then here we are with Hera, which was started right at the start of the pandemic, which was fun. February 2020, and then the world ended in March of 2020. And I spent the next 9 months going, you said to do this, right? You're cool with this, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Sitting on the front porch, right? Oh man,
Right.
that was such a great visual in my head as you share that story. How fun. Fun
Yeah.
now. Fun now
Good
to talk about
memories.
it. Yes. Oh my goodness. Milady, I am watching the clock and I want to respect your schedule. Can we squeeze in a couple more quick questions?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Absolutely.
super, super. What I'll do is I'll put the sponsor break on the front end to make everybody happy because I don't want to lose any of our momentum or your time here, and I want to get this in. Um, we all crave great resources that help inspire, uplift, expand our minds, and like we've talked about, sometimes get us through the day or out of the corner, just to give us a little bit of momentum there. Do you have a favorite book or resource, mentor, influencer, anything you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. I'm a big music person. So if I find myself needing a little mental break, a lot of times I'll reach for my Spotify app and, put on something good mood or whatever. I also find, obviously it's a product of where I am, but the FemTech Focus podcast, Dr. Brittany Barreto interviews innovators in the women's health space. And I find so many of those stories so uplifting, and so motivating. It's, one of the products of just, oh, there's other people this is not just me alone over here. There's other people that have dealt with this or are struggling with different parts of the business. And so that always helps me feel like, okay, I'm not alone. They're going to continue going. I got to continue going. Um, and so those are kind of my two go-tos, depending on what I need. If I need some motivation, it's the FemTech Focus podcast. If I need just a brain break where I can get up and kind of just dance around for a minute, it's Spotify.
Oh, it's so refreshing. That's great.
Yeah,
Love that. Thank you,
of course.
Summer. It has been fantastic visiting with you, enlightening and just so inspirational. Do you have a piece of key go-to advice that you like to share that resonates with you, that someone or something has shared with you that you'd want to pass on to the audience?
Sure. And I should really figure out who said this quote, but it's I can find it. But one of the things I try to repeat, it's like a little mantra is if not you, then who? If not now, then when? And if I find myself getting, weepy over something, which doesn't happen very often, but if I find myself getting there, it's like, okay, but you have big, broad shoulders. You can take it. Like it's our thing in our household is big, strong women, big, strong women. Okay, well, we're big, strong women. Then we can take this. If not you, then who? Who else can shoulder this? Who else can push this forward? Who else can take these hits? It's got to be you. So, I have to say, like, despite the difficulties that I've faced or that anybody else has faced in doing what we're doing and in innovating, if it was easy, everybody would do it, obviously. But, you're never going to regret taking a shot on yourself. It's just, it's never going to be something that when you're 90, speaking of front porches, you're going to be on the front porch and be like, man, I'm so sorry that I bet on myself. That was terrible. Like, no, even if you fail epically, it's going to be one of those things that you remember. Like, I remember I bet on myself and it didn't work out, but you know what? I learned so much and I was so much better for it. So that's kind of my go-to mantras in my head that I think about. And I tell my kids that all the time. There's so many things I say to them that they probably are like, "Oh my gosh, my mom's so weird." But yeah, those would be my pieces of advice.
Weird equals cool equals later wisdom, and you'll hear them repeating it like you already have.
Yes.
Oh, good for you. Oh, wow, that was exceptional. All right, my lady, our time has come and gone so fast, too fast for me. Oh, I've enjoyed this and hearing your story. But the stage is completely yours here. Where can our audience go to find and connect with you on your socials or support you or contact information in supporting you and your business and company in the continued success?
Yes, absolutely. So Hera is on socials. So we have a Twitter and an Instagram and a Facebook and all of that and a LinkedIn. It's all at Hera Biotech. If you want to connect with me specifically, the only place you will find me on social is LinkedIn. And that's just my name, Somer Baburek. And then you can always email me. As I said, I'm neurotic about email, and it's just my first name, Somer, Somer, at herabiotech.com. And I will answer the email, I promise.
Excellent.
Unless it's a
Excellent.
cold outreach, then I probably won't. If you're like, I would really like to, be your private banker. No.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, milady. And just as a reminder to the audience that all of your links will be shared in the show notes in our resource section. So it's just one click away for them to find and support you.
Awesome.
Summer, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
sharing your
you.
silhouette of success. You are a light and inspiration. And thank you for everything that you and your company is doing for us. We appreciate you so very much. And milady, it's just been a pleasure. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing. Yes, excellent. And until next time, I always like to say that I know that, with everything that I hear and see what you're doing, we probably have a part 2 in us one day based
For
on your,
sure.
yeah. Okay. Excellent. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Super. All right, my lady, until next time, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at thesilhouettesofsuccess.com or connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We're grateful that you tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.